what ends up happening is I end up walking the compound with this guy named Ron Wilson. And I'll do this I'll wrap this one up. Ron Wilson was a Ponzi schemer, and he had gotten 19 and a half years for ripping off pension funds and churches. And I think the loss was $57 million, but I think the total scam was like $100 million. So he ended up getting, like I said, he got sentenced to 19 years. We're walking the compound, and he was cooperating against his co-defendants. And he kept telling me, even if they prosecuted his co-defendants, they weren't going to reduce his sentence. I said, oh, yeah, they'll reduce it. And we went back and forth. He kept saying, nah, you don't understand, you don't understand. And eventually, at one point, he says, why do you keep saying I don't understand? What? He goes, oh, they think I hid Ponzi scheme money. I go, you didn't hide it, so don't worry about it. He kept, you don't understand, you don't understand. They hate me. Okay. And then finally, one day, he ends up telling me he did hide Ponzi scheme money. He said it hit about $350,000. Okay, well.
Was it like buried near a tree and in the ground?
It wasn't buried. The previous money that he gave them was buried.
Sounds like a Shawshank Redemption.
Listen, he's a wild character. He's got an amazing story too, but we're not really on speaking terms at this point. So what happens is he tells me this, that his wife is holding a couple $100,000 and his brother's got like 30 grand or something. Like, it wasn't a lot of money, right? And I was like, oh, okay. So maybe a week or two later, I'm talking to my attorney trying to get her to send me the transcripts. Like, I completely discarded what he said.
Yeah.
Because I thought, they're not going to reduce my sentence. They didn't want to reduce my sentence before. They're not going to do it for $350,000. And that's going to cause me all kinds of problems anyway. So what happens is I end up talking to my attorney, and she said, oh, yeah, I'll send you the transcripts. I'm sorry, I forgot. No problem. And then she's sitting there, and she's like, anything going on in there? I was like, nah, not really. And she said, nothing's happening? And I went, no. I said, something weird happened. Listen to this. And I tell her what Ron Wilson said. She goes, oh, wow, let me look into that. And I was like, okay. I don't think I'll ever hear from her again. I couldn't even, took me forever to get her to send me the fucking transcripts. So what happens is a week later, a CO comes up to me and goes, Cox, you got to go see SIS. And that's like their internal security. I'm like, okay. So I go see SIS. I'm like, what's going on? And the guy says, sit down. I got to put you on the phone with this guy. And who is it? And it's a Secret Service agent. He says, I understand you know where Ron Wilson hid Ponzi scheme money. And I go, oh, wow, I'm going to need something in writing saying you guys will reduce my sentence. And he says, yeah, no problem. So he gets me a letter a week or two later. It says from the U.S. attorney saying that if I provide them information that leads to an arrest or recovers significant amount of money, they'll consider it substantial assistance. So I say, okay, yeah, here's what happened. And I explained to him what happened, but that's all I know. And they were like, okay. So they end up calling his wife and his brother in, and the wife gives up $350,000 in precious metals and cash. And the brother walks in and gives them $500,000 in $150,000 in cash. It ends up being about $500,000. They indict the two of them. They re-indict Ron Wilson, bring him back to court. He gets another 6 months added onto his sentence for obstruction of justice. The two of them end up getting probation. They get like a year probation. They actually got community service. Really, they both got community service. One got like 20 hours and one got like 100. I think his wife got 100 because she lied to him the first time.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, so once again, the government doesn't want to give me anything. We have to file. I go back to Frank. Frank files the motion. The government ends up saying, okay, we'll reduce your sentence by 5 years. And they cut it by another 5 years. At this point, when that hits the system, I got like 2 years. I got like 18 months left. So and they give me 7 months of halfway house. So I end up walking out after just shy of 13 years in prison, basically 13. Let's round up. 13 years in prison. And when I walk out, so what I'd been doing in the meantime while I was there was I had written a memoir about myself, right? My memoir. Because everybody kept saying, bro, there's all these programs on you. You were in Fortune magazine. You were in this, there's hundreds, there's whatever. There's like 50, 60 articles. You were on Dateline. You should write a memoir. And so I ended up writing a memoir. I didn't know how to write a memoir. I ordered a book, a couple of books, like How to Write Memoirs for Dummies, that sort of thing. And I'd read some memoirs, and I was reading a lot at that point, and I have a learning disability, so it's not easy for me, but I got better at it, and I realized that I'm a good storyteller. So I ended up writing stories writing story. I ended up writing my story, a memoir. I ended up getting a literary agent. And you got to think, to do any of this from inside a prison is impossible.
Sure, I mean,
I have no
much
access.
more difficult than anything else.
I don't have access to the internet. I'm writing letters. Nobody writes letters. So I'm writing letters. I end up getting a literary agent. And at the same time, the literary agent comes to see me. There's this guy who came on the compound named Ephraim Deveroli. Ephraim Deveroli is the guy that Jonah Hill plays in the movie War Dogs. So I end up writing his memoir from inside the prison. And I write his memoir, and then I meet this kid named Doug Dodd. He's like, you got to write my story, bro. I got a good story. I'm like, okay. So I write his story, and I didn't even want to write his story. I was like, you don't have any press. There's no newspaper articles. You didn't steal a lot of money. You don't have anything. But it was a unique story because it was a bunch of white kids in high school that had started kind of a doctor shopping, and they were doing hitting the pill mills in Florida. And then when they graduate, then they were all on the wrestling team. So when they graduate, all of them go to get wrestling scholarships throughout the country. Dodd stays and keeps running the operation and ships the pills all over the place, right?
Yeah.
They're a bunch of clean-cut, blonde-haired, blue-eyed white kids that are selling drugs. You know what I'm saying? It was such a weird thing because, everybody else I had met, all the other drug dealers were all black guys, right? Or Hispanic or whatever. And they're not really selling oxys at that time. This is during the pill mill epidemic.
Sure.
So I thought, well, that's kind of unique. I thought, you know what? Maybe if I could get them into rolling, if I could get you an article, some publicity, maybe I could get a book deal. He said, you think you could do that? I said, I don't fucking know what I can't know, but I can try. I have the time. So he's like, oh, okay. When I started writing his article and these guys' other articles, I still had like 20 years to go. This was before I got my sentence cut.
Yeah, you had a couple hours to spare.
I got some time.
Yeah.
I could put some time into some projects that may go nowhere. And I liked writing. I liked writing these guys' stories. I liked crafting the stories. What do I focus on? What do I mention? How do I tie these things together? That sort of thing. And I liked being able to order the documents, right? I can order your transcripts. I can order your indictment. I can order the Freedom of Information Act. I can get your FBI 302s, the DEA 6s, like all of these things, these documents in, so I can really put together a story that the guys that I'm writing about don't even know. Like they're like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, that's the this is the affidavit that the DEA gave the judge in order to get the wiretaps." Wiretaps? They had wiretaps? I'm like, I got fucking 16 pages here. Yeah, there's some wiretaps. Like, what are you talking about? There's no, you didn't know that? Then, of course, you turn around and you order the actual full-length wiretaps. 30 pages, 150 pages. So, but you can do all this, and it's free because I'm an inmate.
Yeah.
So I'm ordering these documents. I'm putting together these stories, and that gave me the ability to write the story, not just what you're telling me, but give a 360-degree version of it, because I can also write from law enforcement's perspective. And if they had articles, I can pull excerpts from the articles. So I end up writing these stories, right? Like I wrote a book for Dodd. I wrote a book for Ephraim Deveroli. A guy named Marcus Schrenker, I wrote a book for on him. The first two were like memoirs. I start writing these stories, and then I start writing synopses, which are like a really long article. But so anyway, with Dodd, I end up writing a synopsis of his story, and I send it to like 7 or 8 reporters. One of those reporters, a couple of them come back and say they like the story. Can I wait to do the story? One guy said I can get on it right away. And he wrote for Rolling Stone. And I said, okay, well, let's do it. And so a few months later, we ended up getting him in Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone wrote an article about Doug Dodd. And they talks about me being his writing partner and contacting the whole thing. So
now, were you making anything off any of these guys, or were they giving you some hostess treats or?
Well, what they do is they sign over they attach their life rights to my project.
Yeah.
So that I'm like, I'm going to write an article about you. I said, and I would tell them when I get out, what I said was I'm going to start a website called InsideTrueCrime.com and put the story on the website. And eventually I'm going to get an article written about me having this website, writing these stories, and maybe we can option your life rights. I mean, and what are they going to say? They've been in prison 12 years. They've been telling their story for 12 years. Nothing's ever happened. This is their only shot.
Right.
But you have to attach your life rights to the story.
Now, let's talk about this. You were in mortgage, you were in real estate, but you weren't in the film industry. You weren't in the entertainment industry at that point. Signing over life rights and things like that, that is not like an average thing that most people would know. So how did you figure out that was a route?
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Todd Poltz, and I want to first say thank you for watching this episode. I have built a massive real estate empire in multiple multi-million-dollar companies here in the state of Ohio, and my goal is each week to bring you powerful conversations with some of the most successful, creative entrepreneur minds from around the country. But I need you to do me a favor right now and take time to subscribe to this channel and click right here for the next episode.